Welcome to Kelverion Talks, where we discuss all aspects of IT automation, share our experience, and answer your questions. Today on Kelverion Talks, we are going to continue our discussion about IT automation and AI. This time, we will expand on some of the terminology that may be confusing and explain why tools in IT automation and AI are never a one-size-fits-all solution. Some are more useful in different use cases. I am your host, Jamie Lennox. I have extensive experience in a wide range of IT areas, which gives me a unique perspective when analyzing situations. I tend to overanalyze, but it helps me seek answers to difficult, out-of-the-box questions while collaborating with a wide network of experts. In this session today, I have my colleague again, Richard Catley, joining me. He also has an extensive experience in a broad range of IT areas with a high concentration in IT automation, and I'm looking forward to digging into this subject to see what we can uncover. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, Jamie. It's great to be here again. Thank you for the invitation and the warm introduction.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you again, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can find out today and kind of share our brainstorm ideas and, give people some new information.
Hopefully, that's a good plan.
Great. Well, on our last podcast, we talked about how IT automation and AI are basically allowing people to have an area of confusion. They're kind of getting mixed up between the two things that we've seen between ourselves, customers. And I had mentioned specifically that there was some crossover even in terminology, and that kind of gave me that moment where I said, oh, well, now I understand why everybody's so confused, because they're basically using a lot of the same terms and functionality, and it just kind of mixes in and gets everybody on a different page.
It's typical IT stuff, isn't it?
Exactly.
Always that overloading of terms, yeah.
Exactly. So what I thought is maybe we could give a couple examples of that today and break it down and discuss it a little bit in depth, and then, move on from there.
That sounds excellent.
So probably one of the most obvious ones that anybody who's been working in IT automation knows is the term orchestrator, which of course is from Microsoft System Center platform, and it's designed to do workflow automation and streamline it, manage it, kind of deal with all of the integrations. It gives you a graphical way to create everything. And then you turn around and you go to the other side, an AI, and they're talking about orchestration, which also refers to the way they kind of coordinate and manage all the AI models and systems and integrations. So they're very similar, and they can be kind of confusing if you don't know which is doing what.
Yeah.
So,
and Orchestrator, of course, is the platform that we have been working with for a long time and know and love. And really, it's an amazing choice of name. It really captures the essence of what the product is good at. And that is that high-level overview, the controller, if you like, that keeps everybody in step, just like the guy stood at the front of the orchestrator does. I forget the right word for that.
Conductor.
I was going to say composer. That'd be a different product. I'm patenting that one, copyright or whatever. But yeah, that orchestration component is not just about orchestrate the System Center product, is it? But the way that we go about building our automations. It's good to call that out. And I think that in the more general sense is where it's used in AI, isn't it?
Exactly. AI tends to try to use an overview of that concept, but I don't know that because it tries to be a little bit more autonomous on its decision making and everything else, it's not as regimented, I don't think, as the automation side using Orchestrator or that design that we've been using in automation in general, where it's really more predefined.
So I certainly would say, going back on my own automation journey, right right in the early days, a lot of the focus was on repeatability. A lot of the processes that were out there that were being performed in IT were being performed manually by different teams or different individuals within those teams. Maybe the documentation wasn't great or whatever, but for whatever reasons, there was a lack of consistency. And that was a big push in a lot of the projects that I was involved in. It wasn't about getting rid of people or doing people out of the job. It was about ensuring that things happened in a repeatable way. And I feel like AI is undoing some of that in some respects. So, I mean, amazing as it is, and the power of context and that conversational way of leading to a point, but it's very difficult to walk the same path twice in a set of prompts in AI because you can give it so much extra stuff, extra details, and that can just flip it's a different model or it's a different day of the week or there's something that changes the whole direction. So I feel like there's going to be a kind of an automation renaissance for that consistency, that repeatability, the structure. Its value becomes reborn, renewed again, because it's dealing with that unpredictable nature of kind of an organic intelligence, if you like, silicon-based or carbon-based, it doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm getting into sci-fi now, but
that's cool. That's cool. But I see exactly what you're saying. It makes total sense because as you sit there and look at AI, the whole idea is that it's going to continue to evolve. It's not intended to remain static. Its goal is to learn and improve and adapt. Whereas in automation, we say this is the process that's to be followed for accomplishing whatever task is at hand. This is the company procedure. Let's make sure that it happens and let's make sure that it's documented in an efficient and accurate manner that can be dealt with easily for troubleshooting, and it can go back to see, if there was an issue or, that's where, some of the extra best practices come in with, error handling and things like that. But with AI, if its intention, its whole premise is to continue to improve, evolve, change, learn, adapt, how are you going to keep that consistency? And I think that goes back to where we talked about those guardrails and that human oversight.
Absolutely.
And the term that they use is actually human in the loop on the AI side because you need that kind of oversight management, if you will.
Right. That makes sense. So
to keep it in line.
Many years ago, I worked on a big automation project, and we discovered there were things that we just couldn't sensibly automate. It's not that it wasn't possible; it's that the effort involved in automating it didn't justify because of frequency or whatever. The costs involved. The juice was not worth the squeeze, and we use the term to cover that off as being light touch. And that's kind of the flip side of, I think, of, what did you call it? Human in the loop?
Yep.
That's the flip side, isn't it? It's like, here's a piece that's difficult to automate. Let the person make the decision. And now you're saying, actually, the reverse, the human in the loop is still the control, the guardrail, but the AI is still wanting to be fed with all of that data that automation can bring to the table and the decision making. But we want to, I guess, balance that evolution, that change, just not stop it, right? It's valuable. It's important that the system adapts, but to be able to put the brakes on and to be able to manage that
it and
or
guide it
again. We keep coming back to guardrails, guidance, all of these things, the governance, all of that stuff, and none of it's new. It's all things that we've done with when you had a team of people, whenever you've been involved in a cross domain problem with people with different skills, there's always somebody that picks up the mantle of wait one sec, is this the right thing to do? And yeah, it's interesting.
And then everybody comes in with different points of view, which can also lead to, different experience levels and different ways to tackle a problem. And I think AI is very much that same thing, except it's a virtual version of it.
Indeed. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So that was orchestration orchestrator. That was that first confusing term.
Right.
Are there some more aspects to that orchestrating?
Well, when we get into the whole concept of orchestration, what are we orchestrating? And it's a task, and whether we're talking on the IT automation side where you're writing a run book, which is basically a checklist almost of do this first, do this next, is this the case, then do this, if it's not, do this type thing. You've got that in a run book, right? Whereas in AI, they're talking about a workflow, which is still the same structured step methodology.
Right.
And the question is, they're the same idea, concept, applied slightly differently because which one's happening first? In automation, the person who's designing the runbook, that engineer, is the one taking into account all of the fields of possibilities. In AI, it's going to try to adapt for all the possibilities. I think it's like which comes before, the planning or the execution.
Okay.
And there's kind of a middle ground where it says, okay, we'll start here, and then this one's going to go this direction. And then depending on how far they let AI go, it can go in another direction. That's my theory. What do you think?
That's interesting. So I was chatting with Copilot actually the other day. Oh, other automation platforms are available. We'll come on to that later. And I was discussing with it intuition and training and kind of what the linkage was between the two, and once you reach a certain level of skill, things just kind of happen in your brain without you consciously thinking through the process. And I'm quite that's normally how I work, right? I know we're all different, but in my mind, ideas come from nowhere, and I take it and explore it, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But the point that I wanted to make there was, when we're writing prompts today, so from an AI point of view, we write a prompt, we think about what we're doing, and we try to provide context. When I build a run book today, I've built up this set of things that I tend to build into every run book. So I think about observability and logging and safety and parameterization. It's very easy to forget that when you're building your prompt up for AI, that you have got a whole wealth of experience that you might be working with for the automation that you're building, and you need to figure that into your prompt. If you don't give that information to AI and build that into your prompt, the code it produces or whatever it helps you with is going to be limited in the same way that those first PowerShell scripts you wrote, or Python, or whatever the tool was immature and didn't have those elements to it. And if you're going to make use of the two things together, orchestration and AI, each side needs to sample a little bit from the other, if that makes sense. Does that?
Absolutely, it does. That's a great point, because the other piece of it is basically you can't take for granted what becomes almost automated in your own processes, right? In your own head.
Right.
when people first start out in IT, it's a big ordeal as to how to troubleshoot something, and then they start with examples of start with the least expensive hardware failure item
Hmm.
first and work your way up to the most
Hmm.
expensive, or start with some way to identify what's the easiest to fix or what's the most common
Yeah,
explanation before you start
probabilities.
getting into the
Yeah.
real oddities. And I think that on some level, as we continue to grow in our careers and our skills, that just becomes ingrained. It's a way of thinking, it's a
Mm,
way of life, and it's
mm.
the approach that we take. We don't necessarily think about it at the moment, it just happens. And that's
Yeah.
something that we have to train AI how to do, or we have to make sure that we include it in those prompts in that level of detail. And I think
Hmm.
it's similar to what we said in the last podcast, where if you're doing a Google search for show me the best Italian restaurant, if you don't give it the parameters and the specifics and the details within a 5 mile radius or in my town
Yeah.
or
Yep.
whatever, it's going to
Context.
send you to somewhere probably that you can't get to for dinner, At
This is
least
the
not dinner
best meal you're
today.
ever gonna taste, but yeah, not until week Tuesday.
Right, exactly. So those are the kinds of things that we take for granted and almost overlook that we're going to have to go back and start to recapture to teach
Yeah.
something else. And it's
Yeah.
almost like when you get a new person on your IT staff, maybe you've got a junior tech or something like that, and you have to go back and think about, all right, how did I teach this? What do I need to tell them? And it's the same mentality I think that we're going to have to take with AI.
Interesting. And probably the same. Yeah. It's a trust. Part of that is a trust thing, isn't it? Right. You know
Yes.
when someone new comes on board, he's like, yeah, no, you're not touching production. No,
No.
no. Yeah, you can reboot those servers. No, your login doesn't work over there.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's part of the guardrails again.
Oh. And the other thing that I see as common across both IT automation and AI is the need for integration and APIs to be able to talk to all these different systems and applications
Right,
and things that everybody has running.
right.
And that integration means some common level communication to talk to it, to access it, that can be done from any type of a script or something that's not a human typing on a keyboard actually
Hmm.
logged into the application.
And obviously, here at Kelverion, integration is a subject which is close to our hearts. You know, we've been
Obviously.
that has been part of the core of what we've done for a long time. And I guess that by joining together AI and automation, we can leverage those integrations as well, can't we? We can, again,
Absolutely.
it was a subject that was discussed on the first one. We said to get the best out of your AI model or to train your own capabilities, you need to feed and water it with the right data.
Mm-hmm.
That's the food that helps it grow, right? Information is power,
Yep.
and you already have tools out there that are capable of integrating. So by using runbooks to do that, you can build some quality checks in at a procedural level that says, yeah, we want to make sure that the data is good. It's just a pipeline. All that stuff heads over there into the AI model and it makes use of it. And then when a decision is made, the integration works in the other direction as well. So it's not just about absorbing nutrients for the AI to thrive from, but also giving it that reach, but also in a controlled fashion as well. So rather than fashioning, storing credentials or secrets or whatever the power is within AI, by using orchestration to allow AI to reach into those things and make the decisions about, I've seen these events and the right reaction is this.
Mm-hmm.
Just as you would with a team of people, right? You'd have
Yep.
segregation of responsibilities, and the person that writes the code probably isn't allowed to deploy the code in production. AI makes
Correct.
a decision about it's the right time to do something, but AI has to make that change through a remote agency, i.e., the automation tool.
Right.
Orchestrator, perhaps in this example, goes off and restarts a service or provisions more resources. AI isn't allowed to say, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit CPU starved today. I shall provision 1,000 new VMs in Azure and expand into this new world." Again, maybe I'm getting a little bit Judgment Day-ish, but
Well,
yeah.
it can happen. You know, it can happen. We've seen people say, "Oh, well, show me it can work, in volume, or show me this, or show me that," and you do it, and all of a sudden, somebody on the other side of the building is screaming, "What happened to all my storage space? What did you do?"
I
That
detect the
that's
biggest threat to AI is accountants with spreadsheets. I shall go and format C drives.
exactly. But when you think about all of that, you've got the the whole integration side of it that can say, let's let's talk to these things, and instead of making everybody on your support team a global admin and Microsoft 365, the integration can do that,
Hmm.
and then they can just access what they need to kick it off. And with the
Right.
right authorization and everything else and oversight, once again, that can happen. So I think that the fact that that works on both sides is kind of a key component to where some of the confusion and differentiation is going to have to start to be
Hmm.
decided. Where do you want these oversights in place? How far do you want to take them? What's the actual, valid information that needs to be considered? And how do I make sure that, somebody on the other side of the building doesn't start screaming?
Um, Also, so talking about integration, it means something quite different, I guess, on the AI side of things, doesn't it? And I think at the
Yeah.
start we said we were going to touch on different models, and
Hmm.
not every model is great in every scenario, or you use the right tool for the job. And I think integration is part of that story as well, isn't it? So
Correct. Correct. And I think that's the same case with different AI platforms in general.
yeah, that makes
You know,
sense.
those are specifically advantageous in some areas and less advantageous in others.
Right. So you've kind of got some general purpose
Right.
AI platforms and also some very specific, and using
Right.
the right tools again. As always, I mean, I've been saying it for years about use the right tool for the job. This
Yeah.
applies equally in choice of models. This is something that was quite new to me up until quite recently. I'm not going to name it, but I was consistently, oh yeah, I shall just fire that off to blah blah blah. Um, and it wasn't until we were preparing for this discussion that it really opened my eyes to what all of the options are out there. I've dabbled, it's like, oh, I want to do a bit of image generation, and I'll use that, or I wanted to
Hmm.
generate a diagram. But yeah, it's quite an eye opener when you look at it that some tools have great general capabilities, they're very broad, and others have very specific niches, and making the right choices there can make a big difference to the outcome, can't it?
Well, even if somebody were to look at something as basic as, an Excel spreadsheet, well, you can do a table in Microsoft Word
Gotcha.
and get
Yeah.
get the same effect, but not necessarily the same value or the same functionality.
Are you going to touch on my pet peeve? Are you going to mention
Yes.
merge cells? Because if you are, I'm done. As soon as that comes up, that's the end of my
But
call.
right, but those are, examples where you can get some of the same, but it's not ideal for the job, right? But
Right.
if you want that full functionality, you're going to do an Excel spreadsheet instead of the table in Microsoft Word. And the same thing when you're choosing your service desk. Depending on what industry you're in, certain service desks are designed for certain industries even.
Makes sense.
It's one of those things. And now when you start looking at, all of the AI platforms that are out there, there's some names that everybody knows, whether we're talking ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Gemini or some of these bigger ones that have
Hmm.
been kind of out there for a while. But I expect there's a lot that are industry specific or niche specific that are going to be more useful depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And when you start saying, how do I incorporate AI with automation? You need to say, what am I trying to automate and which AI platform works best in that scenario?
Excellent. That's good to know.
So I think that, there's some out there now. I think people are always designing more.
Hmm.
At some point, there's probably going to be what we consider the standards, right? Just like we do
Yep.
with,
Yep.
these are the names we know, these are the brands we trust, these are our
Yep.
favorites.
Just
Everybody's
like
going to
search
have their
engines
own.
were a few years ago. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But I see that coming with AI as well. And saying, oh, this is what, I feel comfortable with. And it goes back to that trust level, too.
Mm.
This is what I've had success with, or this is what, seems to be doing the most.
Can we get them in a Thunderdome and make them work it out? Yeah. Okay. Maybe on the next episode.
Well, I am currently writing the next blog in this series about IT automation and AI,
Uh-huh.
and I am going to try to put together some of the basic best use cases for, some of the more
Oh,
well known and maybe
so
some
yeah.
specialty ones and give some people some examples to go by. But as you do that, you have to say, take it with a grain of salt. This is
Of
just,
course.
one person's perspective. And do your own research. I think that's the other key to it as well.
Yeah. I mean, in so many things, right? And just
Yeah.
as everything that you've said kind of makes perfect sense looking back, right? When at the start of this conversation, it may not have been quite so clear for me, and maybe others out there as well. But as you're saying it, you're not saying anything new, really. We're just saying the same diligence that you would apply in other areas. It's
No,
still it's still applying in AI, right? You don't
exactly.
just listen to one person's opinion on what you should be eating for your breakfast. Go and sample the menus and see what suits your tastes or what is
Hmm.
successful, what is your experiences, and bring all of that to the table.
It never hurts to get a second opinion or a third, you know.
Yeah,
Have somebody to
you have to pick
bounce
the right
ideas
ones, though,
off
right?
of, and, you know, I think you and I always have a good time coming up with new challenges and ideas and things, so that
We're
that
certainly
type
capable of
of
creating challenges. I'm not sure about ideas.
well, we're good at something anyway.
Indeed.
The other thing that I'm gonna put together is a resource that we'll have available on our website too. That's gonna be basically a glossary of terms for both AI and IT automation terms, and give people a resource and a place to go to get some better understanding of what they mean, what they do, and kind of go with that as well. So I've
Excellent.
got some big things on my to-do list.
I guess that will be a living document that will
It
evolve as
will.
time goes by.
It will. It will. But I think that it's one of those things that it's important for people to have so that they can see A, where things were and how they progressed,
Hmm.
and have access to have, some of the information that's important and understand the differences. So that's all coming up on the website as well.
Excellent.
just something to keep your eye out for. But based on that, I think that now everybody should have a better understanding about the terminology, the way it crosses over, how it sounds similar, but it can mean slightly different things depending on what you're into. The importance of actually doing your due diligence to make your decisions as to which AI model best suits your use case. Just like you took the time to make sure that your data set was accurate and specific for your environment, you're going to have to do the same thing,
Mhm.
when you're looking at your AI model. Say, okay, what's best for me? And I think all of that's going to come together. So at this point, hopefully, after this conversation today, everybody really gets a better idea of how it can be similar but different, and at the same time, what they need to focus on to try to implement AI and where they can start looking and what's important to evaluate.
Excellent. You've certainly given me some food for thought.
Well, that's dangerous because I know
Oh,
thinking I'm already thinking. So between the two of us, who knows what we'll come up with next? But I wanted to say thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure having you. Any last
always.
thoughts or food for our listeners?
No, there's nothing further from me.
Nothing
Sorry.
further from you. Talked you all out. That's good. Thank you for joining us at Kelverion Talks. If you're interested in IT automation or want more information on how we can help you, remember you can always reach us via email at info@kelverion.com or on our website at kelverion.com. If you like what we're doing here, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.